Good evening. I'm Buffy. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to Grace and Gavel, where truth meets compassion. I'm an 18-year criminal defense attorney, and also you can also expect from me the truth, not that the person got off by a technicality. That's not words that I'm going to utter or speak, but actual real-life legal situations that are not considered technicalities, but are considered the law. Additionally, you can expect compassion from me for the victims because they're not just cartoon characters or video game characters. They were actually people who were loved and had family who loved them and missed them when they were victims of crimes. 20 stab wounds, a locked apartment, a medical examiner who changed the manner of death, and a family fighting the classification that made no sense. January 26, 2011, Philadelphia. 27-year-old teacher Ellen Ray Greenberg is found slumped against her kitchen cabinets with 20 stab wounds, 10 of them to the back of her neck and torso. Her fiancé calls 911. Police arrive. The apartment is locked from the inside. Within hours, the case begins unraveling. Not because of what was found, but because of what didn't add up. Who was Ellen Greenberg? Beloved first grade teacher, engaged, planning a wedding, no history of self-harm. Recently seen by her parents and friends, normal, grounded, no alarming signs. The scene, a locked apartment. The fiancé reports returning from the gym to a locked door that required force to enter. Police assume the locked door indicates suicide. The assumption becomes the backbone of every decision that follows. Is it possible that maybe she was concerned for her safety, so she locked the door? Maybe she was concerned that her fiance, maybe they'd had a fight and she was concerned about that. We're going to talk about the injuries here next. Ellen suffered 20 stab wounds, 10 to the back of the neck and upper torso, 10 to the chest and the abdomen. Penetration of the spinal cord, which is extremely hard to think about and consider, given the fact that that had to be a very violent altercation. So it almost seems like up close and personal. Multiple defensive-looking wounds and a knife still lodged in her chest. These injuries are highly inconsistent with typical suicide profiles. The initial ruling was homicide. The medical examiner, Dr. Martin Osborne, initially rules the death a homicide based on the number of wounds, which makes sense, the angles of entry, which makes sense. I mean, there's certain ways that you wouldn't be able to move your hand likely, the location of the wounds, and the inability to self-inflict spinal cord penetrating injuries. This ruling lasts only weeks. The reversal. Suicide was declared. After communication between the medical examiner's office and the Philadelphia District Attorney's office, the ruling is reversed to suicide despite lack of a note, no psychiatric history, no blood spatter consistent with self-infliction, no hesitation wounds, wounds in anatomically difficult locations, and the family immediately disputes the finding. The knife angle problem. Independent experts determine several wounds were delivered at angles impossible for self-infliction. Penetration of the spinal cord would almost certainly incapacitate motor function. The location of the knife in her chest suggests staged positioning. These contradictions are central to the ongoing litigation. The locked door assumption collapses. The lock could be engaged from outside by jamming with a broken cylinder, or as part of a forced staging after the fact. Forensic locksmithing shows a locked door doesn't always equal suicide. There's also digital evidence issues. Her computer and phone offer no suicide planning, no final searches, no goodbye messages. I believe she was an only child, if I remember correctly, and you would think that she would want to say goodbye to her parents because she was likely close to them, being an only child. As an only child myself, I kind of understand that point. The district attorney's office never subpoenaed certain digital logs that should have been obtained in any homicide investigation. It's my understanding that the fiance's cousin, I believe, was also had some sort of phone logs or something along those lines. I'd seen a documentary on this case previously. So maybe look into that if you're interested in that angle. As well, there are timeline irregularities. Discrepancies emerge in the fiance's timeline when neighbors heard commotion. So maybe there was some sort of fight or struggle. Maybe she decided that she didn't want to be married. I know she was struggling with being a first-year teacher and being overwhelmed with that based on what I heard in the documentary. There are building entry logs. And then when Ellen was last known to be responsive. None of these were fully reconciled in the official report. So let's talk about the civil lawsuit. The Greenberg family files a suit challenging the suicide ruling. Expert witnesses testify the wounds are medically and anatomically inconsistent with self-harm. These are our experts. We need to listen to our experts. This drags the case back into the public and legal spotlight. There's also forensic conflicts and expert wars, which there always are in cases of murder and such. Everyone has an opinion, right? In most things, of course, they're going to have an opinion here. Independent pathologists conclude Ellen could not maintain grip strength to continue stabbing after spinal penetration. That makes sense. That makes absolute sense. And several wounds show trajectories inconsistent with self-infliction. Some appear to have been delivered with significant force and positional disadvantage. The state disputes these findings without providing an equally strong rebuttal. Prosecutorial non-action. The district attorney's office declines to reopen the case. The attorney general's office refuses, citing lack of new investigative leads. Critics argue this reflects institutional reluctance to admit prior error. Pride goeth before a fall, right, guys? Never mind that the victims have certain rights and they deserve to be heard and listened to, and they deserve a correct cause of death for their loved one. I mean, how traumatic and how awful would that be? To know that your daughter didn't commit suicide and that she has this as she harmed herself when it seems to be illogical that she could have done so. Public backlash and media pressure. Podcast, legal analysts, and forensic pathologists widely argue that the suicide ruling is unsupported by evidence. National experts call for reclassification. So where does this case stand today? Still ruled as suicide. Civil cases ongoing. Medical examiner classification under heavy scrutiny. Public pressure is increasing. And national experts calling for homicide or undetermined. The death is unresolved legally and logically. Some cases stay unsolved because the truth is hidden. Others stay unsolved because the truth was ignored. The death of Ellen Ray Greenberg remains one of the most contested forensic rulings of the last decade, and a reminder that justice can be locked behind more than a door, including those that are supposed to have the decency to search for the actual truth, to honor the legacy of a victim, to honor those who survived that victim, to let them know the truth, rather than stonewalling, rather than hiding behind your title, hiding behind, what are you hiding? Makes no sense whatsoever. Justice delayed is justice denied. This happened in 2011. Why are you dragging this family through any more than they have to go through already? They've already lost their only daughter. This makes no sense. Follow Grace and Gavel for more legally rich, forensic-focused case breakdowns and where evidence meets analysis. Because you might have your own opinion on what you think happened, but unless you can prove it, it's really just an opinion. Thank you for tuning in, and please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And I hope that you will come back and see us again soon. And if you have ideas for topics that you would like us to do on either our Grace and Gavel podcast, where truth meets compassion, or our Recovering Perfectionist Mama Grace in Progress podcast, We would definitely love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye.